I know I want to get to a beer, so I assume everybody else does, so we're going to make this really quick. And just a quick look at the room here. Like, who's building apps for VR and AR now? Okay, who's thinking about building apps for AR, VR? And who's just curious? Okay, so I'm going to save you guys a bunch of money today. I truly believe, because I am acting what I'm doing. That's me. A little bit about, this is what we're going to do. What's the right mixed reality app for today's market? And I believe there's a market today for what is out there. A bit about me. I'm the CEO of Work at Play. I've been designing apps and developing apps since 1999. There's no gray hair in that photo. These are the companies I've been developing apps for. Selection. I've tried to make them mostly game-oriented. In the last little while, last 3 years, actually 4 years, this is what we specialize in. New apps. Apps with no reference app. All right? There's nothing, so it's not like, hey, I want Snapchat, but different, or I want it in VR. We are asked literally by the game companies to create an app that has not existed, and they can't actually point to us as what it is, right? Some examples that we've just read, if you're in the games industry, you should know Dragon Age Keep. If you play that game, you have used our tool. The Forza Hub, and we've even applied this stuff to launch campaigns. So we did the largest Twitch interactive app for the Deus Ex. These apps have millions of monthly users, and they've won 11 industry awards. And I'm going to tell you how we got to this success, because it's important on how you need to build your apps as well. And it's really quite simple. Products start with a product vision, which almost everybody in the company agrees about. Then there's this thing called measurable goals. What is that app got to do? And we've got to actually put measurable business goals in there. Should be no more than 3 in our experience, ideally 1. This is where disagreement will take place. Then you need to have user needs, beliefs, and behaviors. And I'll get to those. That is not what you think it is. Your product sits in between here, right? That's where your product sits. Your product sits in between what users' needs and behaviors are and what the measurable business, what my business is trying to do. That's what product is. So what we've learned is that by working for other customers, everybody seems to know what their product is right away. This is what I want it to do. But as soon as you hold a stakeholder workshop, you get disagreement. And you get disagreement, it'll surface when you start giving the measurable business goals. You need to have alignment, and you need to get measurable business goals before you can move onwards. Really important. Most people don't. They stick with this vision. The app is going to have millions of users. Or this app is going to be the funnest thing. Or the app is going to do X. That's not a measurable business goal, right? Then user needs, beliefs, and behaviors, especially for an app that has no reference site. This is not usability. This is not surveys. This is not you. This is not your gut. And it's not personas. Doing any of those things will, I think, send you in the wrong direction. What it is generative research. And I'll talk about what generative research is. That's talking to people. That's talking to people for an hour and a half to 2 hours, understanding the entire domain, not everything that's specific to what you think your app is, but if my app sits in a domain, I want to talk to a user about the entire domain. And then you break up that interview, which has lasted 2 hours, and you'll spend about 4 hours breaking up what they're saying into implied or direct tasks. It's called a mental model. This is the most important tool you should ever use. I can talk about it after this talk because we want to go quicker. I encourage you to look it up. This is a tool that we use that is fundamentally what makes a difference in the products that we make to make them successful. So this is a travel planning mental model. Anything I wanted to do around travel planning, which is quite broad. It could be from booking tickets. It could be for promotion. It could be writing content. This covers 97.8%, whatever, 2 standard deviations of everything that is done in that space. OK, so how does it apply to this device? All right, so this has no reference apps. Or this device and devices like it. There are no reference apps out there. The process that I just told you needs to be applied. But there's also something else. So has anybody experienced the HoloLens? OK. If you haven't, I'll have it up at the Vancouver podium tomorrow, and I'll be doing demos, okay? When I put this on, that was me. I got a chance to wear it before it was released, and I was literally blown away. And I knew immediately that this was the future of computing. And when I talked to everybody else in my business who had tried it and also starting to develop for it, or apps or devices like it, they all agreed. Everybody agrees, says, and if you walk around for people who are doing this, we all agree. People, yeah, this is the future. We can see the future. It's the future. But that's sent people in the wrong direction. And it's starting, and I think this wrong direction is going to be felt this year. We're in a valley of, I think, disappointment coming up because I don't think what people think is happening in the future is happening today. Rather than saying it's the future of computing, we should be saying it's a new type of computing, and I think that that's going to change your mental look at these devices. This is a new type of computing that is removing an extra layer of abstraction away from the user. So when I talk about that, this is where computing started, right? I mean, well, maybe an abacus, I guess, right? But really, this is where it sort of started. And I have a big blue or whatever you have right now. When the personal computer came in, a level of abstraction was removed. We can now have a screen in front of us and a keyboard and an input, and eventually a mouse. And I would argue that this is all one continuity. So I don't agree with Robert Scoble saying this is the fourth transformation coming out. I think it's the third. And I think by saying it's the fourth, what he's doing is saying this continuity is that this is just an extension. It's a consumer extension. This is now an easier device. It's a more efficient device, and it's more convenient. But I'm going to make the argument that that's not the case. It's a new type, and that has lessons for us. And this is why we're waiting. Everybody out there and everybody here is waiting for that killer app. I'm waiting for it. Everybody, I just had a conversation. I'm still waiting for that experience that says, I've got to buy this. Well, that's not going to happen until these things happen. And so Tish Shuda is a very smart woman, and she put out these 5 requirements for mass consumer market, and they are absolutely accurate. The headset needs to be lightweight. It needs to be low cost. It needs to be low power, meaning long life. It needs to be natural looking, right? None of them are yet. And it needs to be high fidelity. Some of them are close to that. It needs to be all 5 of these to reach a mass consumer audience, which everybody seems to be focused on because it's the future of computing. These devices are none of those. They're none of them. They're not even close to them. Yes, I know that the R9 looks, but it's heavy and it doesn't have a lot of the things that you need for mixed reality in it. It's not there yet. None of them are there yet. But let's look at that continuum again, and let's look at what the mass consumer market. The mass consumer market for PCs didn't start until mid-1990s. Didn't start in 1982 or 1984 with the Mac. It was a really expensive machine, right? And it certainly didn't start in 1976 with the Apple I. The mass consumer market for computers did not start until mid-90s. And I would argue it was probably the iMac, because it was fashionable. I could put it in. It was easy to install. It had all the easiness, no cables, a whole bunch of things. But previous to this, there was a business market that was a multi-billion-dollar market. That personal computers were in every business. And gradually went, my father, I remember him saying, I'm never going to use a damn computer. Well, years later, it was in his office. Years later, he has an iPad, right? That is a massive market. So I would argue that it is not a continuation. It's a new type of computing, and we are somewhere here. We are not there. As such, let's look, what were the lessons that we could learn for apps that worked, that became part of this billion-dollar business? And I think there's these 2 things that were really important. The first one is it improved business and work process. the computer improved the business or work process of the user. And then the second thing, which I think is the most crucial element to being a very successful app, is that the use of that benefited people who did not own the computer. The using of a Macintosh or a Windows PC benefited people who did not own it. So I could do desktop publishing and get more accuracy. I could get a document out better, more refined, into a paper document than ever before. So the people who had the paper documents looked better, they were happier, they saw the benefits of it. So a computer that was incredibly expensive, between $5,000 and $10,000, with a laser printer that cost $3,000 to $5,000, had a return on investment because it helped a lot of people. Paper docs was the killer output. If you did a consumer app, even knowing that email was the killer app for the consumer market on PCs, if you would have thought about that in 1976 or 1984, you would have gone bankrupt. You may have seen that future, and a lot of people did actually see the future, right? But building those products, you're not going to, now is not the time. And if you're in the game side, which I know a lot of people are here, there was a successful game company, Broderbund. Lode Runner, right? That was an awesome game. I'm 50 years old, so I remember those games. Choplifter. But they also did business software. Their desktop publishing and paint kits are what drove the revenue of Broderbund. They had a passion for games, and that's what they wanted to do, but they built business software that matched the criteria that I just talked about. That's how they made it through. And they're still, I mean, they've been gone bankrupt and terrible, but they're the only one, the only game company that's still a brand that was existing in 1984, that's still, actually 1978, that's still here. So I have my mass business market criteria. It needs to improve productivity, meaning lowering the cost of production and produce higher quality. It needs to do that. And the app has to benefit those without an AR headset. I think there's 3 types. And this is from my own experience. The first type is it's going to improve business process and work on its own. So it's going to show some ROI by the user wearing this headset. And there's some good examples of this right now. Then because these are portable devices, the AR ones, because they're not tethered, they can be given and lent to somebody. So that's even slightly better app. But the best one is getting it to make it valuable to those who don't own it. And today's new paper is the web or devices, right? That's the new paper. Using a headset, creating output of value to a cell phone. If you can do that, you have got the best solution. And you can become the next Adobe. So examples of OK apps. So these are companies that are using the HoloLens and are using it to gain an ROI, right? So they develop, PACCAR basically does its design of its bodies around its trucks to improve aerodynamics, fuel efficiency. And with this device, they are able to get the designs, with the HoloLens, able to get them done faster, quicker, and better. Autodesk, literally tied up so that as you're designing it, you can actually view the model, you can then scale it. The ability to see and scale, see what you're seeing in scale, allows you to quickly define defects. A better example, Lowe's and Build Direct. A designer can design their actual kitchen or bathroom. And then they can actually see it in real space, even in their own kitchen. An example is we built the one for Build Direct. Let's have this quick little video when we launched.
To tools like this. If you've seen this, it's hard to unsee it. The world changes before your eyes. You think about the use cases of this. It's incredible. And now you think about designing a room or designing a house or designing anything and being able to move things in and out of your space and time in real time.
All right, that's good.
They all just become
So you're able to actually see that in your real kitchen, overlaid your kitchen where your windows are and everything else in space. And that allows us, if anybody who's designed a kitchen, and I have put my island way too close. It looked good on the design when we got it, but it bugs me every time I'm cooking. It bugs me every single time. Had I been able to view it, and then, no, that's too close. We don't see blueprints, right? We see 3D objects. So you can go back to the PowerPoint. And so the best, we're still waiting for, right? We're still waiting for what's that best one where the headset produces other output. And I gotta guess, I'm working on an app that I think might be a best, and I'll demonstrate it to you tomorrow. But I think there's one that's gonna be pretty phenomenal, and it's by iFluence. Is anybody familiar with these guys? So iFluence is a way of navigating. It's just a way of navigating right now with your eyes. They have it down so that using your eyes, no voice, no pausing with your eyes, but just by acting naturally. And they say it's a two-minute tutorial. You can navigate content on a computer 40% more efficiently with that headset than with a mouse and keyboard. That is really, really, really big. Like, that is really, really big. I can navigate through content on my computer 40% more efficiently. Are any of you writers? How much do you dig into files, try to join, you do your research, you put it in lots of different spaces, you want to then now go find that piece of research, the time that it takes you to do that, now we're going to say we're going to cut that down by 40%. And the same thing for almost anybody, like in my own business, I'm not a writer, but I actually do a lot of research. Same thing. I also can't find those files or what have you. So they're also now working on a way to use your eyes, to use a new modified keyboard that is going to allow you to type at some percentage faster. Not type this way, but literally by looking, your eye movements and eye tracking. It may be the killer app. Because it creates content that we can consume on here. So to sum up, here we are. And I did pretty good. Like, I mean, you guys got like, we're so late. I did this in like 15 minutes. All right, sum up. AR is a new type of computing, and I think that's the way you should think about it. I really do. I think it changes the way, if it's a new type, it's one level of abstraction less, right? Big supercomputers to personal computers to in my head, right? And the focus on business applications that improve productivity and benefit those without headsets. Avoid large investments into consumer apps today. Like, you might believe, I believe in it. We all believe in it, right? But there's business to be done today, and I believe it's $1 billion industry that nobody's looking at. There's just nobody looking at it. So that's what I think you guys should do. And hopefully I saved some of you guys some money. You was like, I had that perfect game for this AR headset. Don't do it, right? Figure out a word processor instead. All right, and I'll do demos tomorrow over at the Vancouver booth. Yeah, all right. I see Aaron in the back. Well, Aaron is going to be doing a presentation tomorrow on the future of mixed reality.
Not this guy, but this is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, future stuff. But I'm talking about today's stuff. I think you can actually make money today. And actually, my company is, just to put this in perspective, my company, I have a very successful studio that makes apps for a bunch of different, I sold it, in fact, the sale went through on the 6th of January, and I'm down now to 3 people. I had a company of 36, I'm now down to 3 people, and I'm focused on these apps. So I have put my money where my mouth is. I truly, truly believe it, and I think you should believe it too. All right, any questions? So convinced. All right.